Hello and welcome everyone. Today's video features the brand new premium Tier 9 Japanese battleship, Iwami. The Iwami will be available in the armory from the 8th of July for 19,300 doubloons or 228,000 coal. Now there will be also various price bundles in the premium store. Iwami comes armed with 8 410mm guns in 4 twin-mounted turrets, which are quite accurate and backed up by long-range 20-kilometer torpedoes. Now before going through a complete review of the Iwami, let me put up the build I've been using. I was using my Yamamoto captain in this particular game, so I was making use of the bonus to grease the gears, but it's not an absolute prerequisite. One could quite easily go for brisk instead for that extra speed when undetected. Now this is a full tank build, as you can plainly see, but I will cover the secondaries later. But first let's start this review with the Iwami's armor layout, which is quite strong, in particular when angled stern towards the enemy. Here, using a simple port screenshot, we can see the Iwami gets a bow section of 32mm. Aft end is also 32mm, but the aft end armor belt consists of a very strong, and this is split in two sections, 191mm, the lower part, and the upper part is 229mm. So angled stern towards the enemy, this is very difficult to deal with. The main belt armor is 356mm, the upper casemate is 32, the main deck armor is a quite solid 50mm, while the superstructure gets 19mm. The Iwami's gun turrets get quite strong protection, a frontal plate of 508mm, side plating of 305, and top plating of 254 and 229 respectively, front and back, while the rear plating is 229mm. So pretty all-round decent protection on the gun turrets. The weakness of this armor is the Iwami does suffer from the soft cheek issue. Players familiar with playing Yamato and Musashi will recognize this problem instantly, that your armor under the front turret, especially taking shells from the front or broadside, can be quite vulnerable. But on the plus side, angled stern towards your enemy, this combined with having both torpedo tubes on your stern means you can bring all your torpedoes to bear while presenting a very strong angled profile towards the enemy. And the firing angles on the gun turrets also play into this strategy, allowing you quite easily to fire towards the stern using all your guns. This leads into the Iwami's survivability. Iwami gets 80,700 hit points and quite a strong torpedo protection, damage reduction of 37%. This is further reinforced by having 5 repair parties with this exact build. Now the Iwami is a little bit limited when it comes to consumables, but 5 repair parties is quite solid. So let's take a closer look at the Iwami's main battery gun turrets. Iwami is armed with 8 410mm guns in 4 twin-mounted turrets, 2 fore and 2 aft. The reload time with this build is 24.6 seconds, and they can rotate 180 degrees in 32.2 seconds. Now remember, I am using Yamamoto's captain, which does have a bonus to grease the gears and turning traverse. The max dispersion on these guns is 227 meters with a max firing range of 22.3 kilometers. With this exact build I am using the reload mod and the accuracy mod, of course. Now one could boost the range using the range mod, but I don't find this necessary, and you don't have access to a spotter aircraft. What stands out about these guns is the Sigma. The Sigma value is very high for battleships, of 2.1, which leads to quite accurate shell groupings, and this is a major plus, having only 8 guns. The Iwami can fire both high explosive and armor piercing shells. The high explosive have a max damage of 6,500, quite a decent fire chance of 30%. They can pen 68mm of armor and have a shell speed of 834 meters per second. The armor piercing shells can inflict a max damage of 12,750 and have the same shell speed of 834 meters per second, which is quite useful, so no adjustment is needed in leading the target while swapping out shell types. While the Iwami has quite interesting secondaries, I have found playing a secondary build quite difficult, quite often faced against top tiers and now increasingly against super ships, so I found using the Iwami's range and saving the secondaries for late game worked much better. Should you choose to fit for secondaries, you can build out the max firing range to 10.5 kilometers, but as is, the base range is 7.3. Now Iwami just come armed with 16 of these 100mm guns in 8 twin mounted turrets. They have quite a fast reload time of 3 seconds, and as stated they have a base range of 7.3 kilometers. Fire high explosive shells, they can inflict a max damage of 1700, a 6% fire chance, they can pen 30mm of armor and have a shell speed of 1000 meters per second. So very useful like dealing with destroyers. The Iwami gets an additional 9 155mm secondary guns in 3 triple mounted turrets. Now these have a slower reload time of 12 seconds. Again, the same base range of 7.3 kilometers. They can inflict a max damage of 2600, a 10% fire chance, and these can pen 26mm of armor with a shell speed of 925 meters per second. And again, should you choose to build for a complete secondary build, you can extend this firing range out to 10.5 kilometers. So all in all, pretty decent main battery gun stats and secondary stats, although the max firing range is a little bit limited compared to other top tier secondary battleships. But I found, especially late game, they seem quite effective against dealing with targets closer in. So this pretty impressive main battery gun stats and secondaries are backed up by having massive long range torpedoes, 20km torps that can inflict very high damage. Iwami gets 2 X4 launchers, both located at the stern, with pretty decent firing angles. Now these have 20 kilometers in range. They can inflict a max damage of 20,967. These are high damage torpedoes. They have a torpedo speed of 62 knots and can be detected at 2.5 kilometers. Now they do have quite a slow reload time of 150 seconds. But all in all, I found myself landing regular hits on long range targets. These 20km torps, it's just simply a case of fire and forget, and you would be surprised how quickly the damage racks up when you start landing a few of these. So very useful torpedoes indeed, and especially useful when employing the stern towards the enemy tactic. You can bring all your main battery guns and your torpedoes consistently to bear on target. With the proliferation of submarines in the game, you're going to find yourself needing the depth charge airstrike. Iwami comes armed with 2 available flights, 1 aircraft per attack flight, each dropping 3 bombs that can inflict a max damage of 2800, albeit having quite a slow reload time of 60 seconds. When it comes to AA defense, the Iwami gets 18 single mounted 25mm guns, 24 twin-mounted 25mm and 12 triple-mounted 25mm. And the 100mm secondary guns, the 8 twin-mounted 100mm, they also function as AA mounts. All combined, they pump out a continuous average damage of 256. Now this is equally spread between short range and long range. Iwami can fire 8 shell explosions per flak salvo with a max damage of 1470, which is quite decent. And these guns have a max firing range of 5.8 kilometers. This AA proves functional but not exceptional. So one should always take great care not to get isolated, especially against a tier 10 CV, or in particular against a supercarrier. One should take great care in one's positioning and accompany another ship at all times. When it comes to maneuverability, the Iwami gets a base speed of 28.2 knots. Now this can be further increased by mounting the Sierra Mike signal flag to 29.6, and should you choose brisk over grease the gears, you can add an additional 10% when undetected. Iwami gets a turning circle radius of 880 meters with a rudder shift time of 11.2 seconds. So finally, stats wise, the Iwami has a concealment rating of 48, which equates to a surface detection range of 12.9 kilometers. And Iwami will be further detected by enemy submarines and aircraft at 9.9 kilometers. Now you can see this game was played out on the brand new map called Faroe Islands. I had to wait quite a while to actually get a game in the Iwami on this map, and it turned out quite okay in the end. Mostly dealing with angled targets, but this is quite a pretty new map. So I hope you enjoyed this review of the brand new Tier 9 premium Japanese battleship, the Iwami. Very nice main armament with these 410mm guns and 20km torpedoes. So again, I hope you all enjoyed this review. I hope it provided you some useful information on the upcoming Iwami. If you'd like to see some live gameplay, feel free to come over and visit me on Twitch. You can see the link here on screen and also in the video description below. I look forward to seeing you all.
Severely damaged. We've destroyed an enemy cruiser. Our team has taken the lead. In 5 minutes.
I'd like to thank you once again all for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more. Take a moment to check out some of my most recent videos and leave a comment below. And until the next time, keep sailing it like you stole it.